introduction to one of my favorite people on earth, Mr. Stephen Oliver, who is with the Advisor Marketing Podcast. Now, Stephen is a true maverick, and I mean that in every sense of the word. Not only in our business, but I have to tell you, his clients universally love him, and they grow at rates that they wouldn't believe it's possible. Now, on this podcast, in each episode, Stephen is joined by various members of his team or special guests to share insider secrets to rapid growth and high net profits in your financial advisory practice. So I just want you to know you're in for a wild ride, new information, and a lot of exciting new future because of Stephen Oliver.
But hey, and I've got Vance Morris here, and Vance, you have quite the we both have an eclectic marketing background from all types of different directions, all the way back to you ran one of my sons and daughter's favorite experiences at Disney. Were you in California or Orlando when you were running
Orlando?
The Orlando, yeah. The Mickey, what is it? The Mickey dining experience?
Chef Mickey's.
Yeah. Which one was that? Where was that one located?
That's in the Contemporary Resort, the one with the monorail that goes through it.
That's right, and it's downstairs in the Contemporary.
Yep.
We've been there a couple of times. I don't think either time when you were running it still. So,
well, we opened it in '95, and I left in 2000. So
okay. Well, we may let's see. No. That would have been far after you were gone. And you've written a bunch of books and one thing or another, worked with business owners of all sorts, and you're an active entrepreneur who then also does coaching for a wide range of business. And I know you've worked a lot with the niche we're talking about here with financial advisors, among others. Why don't you give a little bit more of your own bio? I'm kind of rambling on your bio, but
you're fine. You're fine. No. So, we won't go too far back, but I did spend a decade at Disney as a leader in the resorts division. So I didn't have to work in the parks, thank goodness, which was interesting. But so I spent just a tick over a decade. My last job there was food and beverage manager for the Contemporary Hotel. We had, at the time, I probably had about $40 million a year in sales under management. And now today that same operation is a tick over 120 million a year.
Wow.
So just massive, unbelievably massive. But people do leave Disney. I left, great place to, if you're young, I think, but Central Florida just wasn't the place I wanted to be. And I also started to learn that I make a very lousy employee. I just don't like to be told.
We share that in common, I must say.
Yes. So
I don't think I would hire me.
No. I think we're both unemployable at this moment. But I went on and worked in some long-term care, retirement communities, did some corporate food service, a couple other hospitality things. After, I'd like to say I got laid off twice, but I probably got fired. Because the boss asked me a question and I told him the answer and he didn't like it. So, can't change that. So I started my own business. I started a carpet cleaning business here in Maryland. Great year to start any business, 2007.
Oh yeah.
2008 was just rolling up on us. So, but it was actually a good thing because I didn't have the downward spiral that 98% of all businesses had because I had nothing. I had nowhere to go but up. So I knew nothing. I wasn't smart enough to know that I was in trouble. But grew that business. After a couple of years, really was getting ready to hang it up and go back and get a job just because it wasn't working the way I wanted it to. Discovered this guy named Joe Polish, and business got better, but Joe kept talking about this guy, Dan Kennedy. And I'm like, sorry, Joe, I'm going to eliminate the middleman here and go right for the source. And, I've been with Dan now probably about 10 years. but it gave me a completely different take on how business should work, how business should be run, how business should be marketed, which then spawned a whole nother ball of wax, which we're talking about, my consulting business for creating experiences, which then spawned another business, which was an Oriental rug washing facility. And then we opened another business. We do mold remediation as well. So, and here we are.
Yeah. And I think a lot of financial advisors would listen to that bio, or even listen to my bio. Oftentimes they say, well, what does that have to do? And how are you an expert in our thing? And as we know very intimately, all businesses really are about create and keep a customer, right? And I stole that from Peter Drucker many years ago. And once you realize you're in the business of create and keep a customer, and I've now worked with financial advisors for, I don't know, I kind of got in this ass backwards probably 15 years ago. But although the tendency is for clients to stay around, research I was privy to, I'm not sure it's public, but so I guess I can't go into extensive detail, but the surveys were 65% of clients of advisors aren't particularly impressed with their guy. And then the other stat was a third of them at any one time are looking at leaving. Now, the reality is most advisors are going to have a 1 or 2% year over year turnover. But when you try to reconcile those numbers, number one, if somebody better at doing what you do comes along, and I don't mean better at analyzing the numbers, I mean better at taking care of people, it's easy for them to jump ship. But more importantly is advisors can't figure out why they don't have, great client engagement, maybe why they're not managing all of their assets. They can't figure out why they're not getting multi-generational, or they're getting a flood of referrals. Well, if 2/3 of clients of financial advisors aren't particularly impressed with their guy, even if they don't take the effort to change, that gives you a lot of detail about that, doesn't it?
Certainly. I mean, it's crazy. The amount of money we spend to acquire a new client. I mean, I can tell you my numbers, and what's a number everybody should know.
Sure.
But to acquire a new client, it is infinitely cheaper to keep the client than it is to go out and get new ones. So I mean, I talk to people all the time. Oh, I need leads. I need leads. I need leads. I'm like, no, you got plenty of people. Take care of the ones you got, and you're gonna, you're going to have more money because you're not buying new clients. You're going to have happier clients. And then they're also going to refer, which further reduces your marketing spend because you've got people actively referring to you.
Yeah.
I mean, Disney has an 80% return rate, 80%, and they are on their 5th generation. So it's not a fluke that that people continue to come. I mean, grandma from the 50s went and brought the kids who are bringing the grandkids, and now we're up to great grandkids. I mean, they're doing something right, and they're worthy of study. And I get asked the question, well, I don't own a theme park, I don't own a roller coaster, why should I look to Disney? And it's not so much adapting and copying what they're doing as it is adopting. I mean, you can't just copy because we don't have a roller coaster. But it's that with every business, looking outside of your industry is so vital. I mean, I saw a great idea for an envelope design from an insurance company. And just because none of my businesses are insurance, as we went through my bio, but this envelope was just so damn cool. And you've probably seen it. I think it was for Progressive Insurance, and it's actually got a yellow Post-it note, and the envelope is oddly shaped, and it looks like a little Post-it note hanging off the side. Pretty darn cool. I said, that's a great envelope. I'm going to steal that idea. Yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Both for financial advisors and for, my other career of martial arts schools. We've done a number of behind the scenes experiences. And we've done Disney Orlando 2 or 3 times. And then we did a deal with Disney University at one point. And we did Disney in Anaheim, and as well as West Point, and we've taken them to Air Force Academy and a number of other things. But the reaction tends to be the same. On the way in the door, they go, well, what does this have to do with me? And on the way out the door, they're, oh my God, I took more notes than I've ever taken in my life. And we got so many great ideas. I can't believe how applicable that was. And with advisors specifically, and I was talking to our mutual friend, Dan Caprell, and I know you've done some work with his organization as well. And he was making that point on our conversation is one of the reasons he tells advisors charge an upfront fee is then he can spend a bunch of money on gifting, and he can spend a bunch more money on client service, or at least he can justify it that way. There's a lot of revenue to go around if you get the right kind of client. But let's talk about some of the takeaways that from your other businesses, your consulting clients, and from ultimately what you've seen at Disney is applicable. And by the way, an old story to Disney, a really good friend of mine still on payroll at Disney. He's one of the lead engineers. And he was telling me he used to be in charge of the castle. So that was his role. And he said at the time, the number one dollar per head square foot of anything on property was that little hair salon. And I know with my daughter, I twice dropped, I think, $180 each time. And basically, I can give it, it's basically your 5 or 7 year old daughter goes in and gets dressed up like a princess, and they sprinkle pixie dust sparkles in their hair, and they walk in normal and they leave a princess, and they're not even cutting their hair, coloring, or doing anything else. There's basically a fancy comb, but it's all about the experience created. And it used to be, we had him at one of our meetings talking about how they created the experience, but also how they protected, the high revenue sources. Because he kept saying, no, we need to shut down the castle. Like, no, we don't shut down the castle. It's like there's holes in the roof, but there's, put tarps, so we don't care. You can't shut down the hair salon. So it was interesting. But what would some of the starting points for you if you were looking at a financial advisor's practice and figuring out where holes and gaps are? What would be some of the immediate things you'd ask and look for?
Yeah, it's funny. A real quick aside: the woman who used to work for me at Disney is the manager of the entire castle.
Okay.
She calls herself the queen of the castle.
There you go.
But brilliant woman. She opened up Euro Disney or Disneyland Paris, it's called now. But yeah, so I mean, looking at your business, the key, it's nothing difficult. Okay. It's, creating experiences does not, and it doesn't even have to cost money. I mean, just think about what they're doing at the hairdresser. I mean, they got some hair cement and the little whoopty thing, and they, you're right, $180. Yeah. So it's looking for opportunities to create an experience and then systematizing it. So I look at the entire customer journey, customer map, whatever, phrase you want to use to describe how they go from point A to the end. And you examine each one of those and say, how can I make this just a little bit better? And Walt Disney actually came up with a term called plussing. And plussing was Walt's term for process improvement, for making it better. So once you have this thing mapped out, you go and you find, okay, well, which one of these things is going to give me the most bang for my buck? And you pick that one and you get some folks together, or if you're a solopreneur, you get together with yourself and you start brainstorming. How do we make this better? I'll give you a great example. So I have a book. And when I first came out with my book, it went in a brown cardboard box, just like you would get from Amazon. I thought to myself, well, you're supposed to be the experience guy. That's not much of an experience. So why don't you get your own box made? So I designed a custom box that now goes inside the cardboard box.
Yeah.
And a few months later, I'm like, well, it's a workbook. I should probably include a pen. Oh, great. So I added a pen. And then there was the
great minds think alike.
There you go. Yeah, I don't have one close by. I don't have show and tell.
Yeah.
So I said, well, it's a book. I should put a bookmark in there. Great. So now there's a bookmark in there. Oh, wait, they bought something from me. I should put a thank you letter in there. Great. So put a thank you letter in there. Oh, wait, I'm sending all this crap. It's not going to cost me any more in postage. Put a sales letter in there.
Mhm.
Now there's a sales letter in the box. So, I mean, this happened over the course of 24 months.
Yeah.
But the thing you get right now, I didn't come up with yesterday.
Yeah.
It's a process. It's an iteration.
Yeah.
And I think the big mistake a lot of people do or think is that they see stuff like this and they're overwhelmed by, I could never do that.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't start that way. I don't know if you did, but I got my book and it went out in a box.
You bet. One step at a time. Yeah.
But you do that with every step of the way. So, I mean, what is the first point of interaction that you have with your business has with your client?
Yeah.
If it's a phone call, all right, great. How do we make answering the phone an experience?
You bet.
I mean, website, if you're online all the time, okay, great. Well, how is the online experience? Do you have broken links? Does your download button work? All that stuff.
Yeah.
Because we're assuming, we should have probably started with this. I'm assuming that everybody watching this or listening to this already has all their ducks in a row and is actually providing a good service.
Right.
But that's the bare basic entry level thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you do all this stuff, all you're going to do is and you give a lousy service or you have a lousy product, all this is going to do is accentuate it. So you got to have your crap together before you start on this.
Well, and to not pass over that too lightly, in all businesses, I think that people think that because they're more knowledgeable or they're more educated or, financial advisors love the alphabet soup of all their designations and certifications.
Yes, they do.
CFP, RSCP, all of the other CHFs. See, well, they don't recognize that the prospective client doesn't care about any of that stuff. Hell, I've been in the niche for a long time. I don't know what half this crap means, and I'm afraid they don't know what it means. But they think that that's it, right? Take the martial arts example. They think because they train with so and so and they trained with so and so and they're X degree black belt and stuff doesn't mean a thing to the prospect, and it really doesn't mean a thing to their customer. What means something to the customer is how well they're treated, how competent everything is, and how good or bad the experience is, right? And I think that's a really good point, is knowing your stuff and being good at what you're doing. That's like foundational, right? If you're not there, you should just get the hell out and find something else you can do. But really, it's all of this other stuff that differentiates the people who are also ran. And again, it's one of these, in this industry, 95% fail in the first 2 or 3 years. And I think there's a lot of marketing reasons for that. But there's also the reason that they think that their job is to become an expert in finances, and they don't know that's the starting point, not the end point.
Right.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the alphabet soup, which I completely agree with. I've got my XYZ and my PDQ after my name, right? Whatever. But all it is further commoditization of your industry. You think getting another designation is going to further, separate you from your competitors. It's far from that, because exactly right. Nobody knows what those letters mean, and it doesn't do anything for you.
Yeah.
However, what does separate one business from another, one commodity from another, is the experience they provide. And I hate to break it to everybody, but I'll be the bearer of bad news. You're a commodity.
Oh yeah.
A financial planner is a financial planner is a financial planner. A dentist is a dentist is a dentist. There's only so many ways to clean teeth. It's like 2 or 3, so the only differentiator is in-office experience. I use, here's another industry that has nothing to do with financial planning, but certainly illustrates the point, is American Girl.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
No, just when COVID hit, I was going to take our group to the American Girl store in New York City.
Oh,
and
it's
then
amazing.
of course all hell broke loose. But yeah, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt, but that's one of the examples I've used so many times.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know, American Girl actually has the record for the longest amount of time a shopper will stay in the store. The average is 4 hours.
Wow.
4 hours. 4 hours. I don't even go to Home Depot for 4 hours, and that's the average. So people are in there longer. And you're like, well, how do they do that? Well, they've made an experience out of a commodity. The commodity is the doll. You can get a doll at Walmart for $9. You go to American Girl and, it's $59, but that's just the base doll. Now you've got a choice of over 1,000 outfits that you can choose. One of which is actually student council vote taker. This is an outfit you can buy. Comes with a little clipboard. All right, great. Well, what else about all that time? Well, all that shopping, you get your new doll, you want to get a picture with the doll. Great. So you go to the American Girl photo studio and drop another $50, just like, you were talking about.
Yeah.
But you can't get your picture taken until you get your hair done. Great. So you go to the American Girl store hair salon.
It's Lee Milt here, and I'm delighted to interrupt you today and let you know that I've been working with Stephen Oliver for 10 or 15 years now. He's a great guy. I love all the research that he does. And I just wanted to let you know that if you're enjoying the content on this podcast, then you really want to make time to visit advisorwealthmastery.com. And why should you do that? Well, because you're going to receive 2 of his great books and actually one of mine called Success is an Inside Job. You'll also get a lot of absolutely free material on growing your practice through effective marketing. So again, take the time to go to advisorwealthmastery.com.
Both you and the doll get your hair done. Then you go get your picture. And by that time, you're hungry. Well, you got to go to the American Girl restaurant. That's where the 4 hours comes in. Now you figure between the hair and the picture and the lunch and the doll, you're probably in that $250, $300 mark for the same $9 commodity doll.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop there. You can have your birthday party at American Girl for like $300 a kid. So you got you and 9 of your closest friends, you're going to drop $3,000.
Yeah.
You can even have a sleepover party at American Girl. And I think the entry price for that's like between $500 and $700.
Yeah.
For you and 9 of your closest friends. For the same $9 doll, they're getting 10x the price.
Yeah.
All for the experience, and it's those things you look for. It's like, okay, you got the customer, you got the prospect. Great. Now, what can we do to give them a better experience, but charge more? I mean, Disney's rides, you've got to admit, are boring.
Oh, yeah.
There's no excitement. There's a couple that are pretty good, but most of them, they're just story based. You sit in a little boat and you travel around and there's a whole story and you get off and you're like, oh my God, that was great. But if you stripped all that away and you compared it to like a Six Flags or Knott's Berry Farm or somebody like that, you're like, this is boring. But Disney commands 3x the price.
The American Girl doll it's one of those stories I've used over and over, and I don't know how many thousands of dollars I've had to drop in that when my daughter was younger.
Not kidding.
And her little brother, my son Chase, who's now, he'd probably kill me for telling this story. He's 15 now, coming up on 15. But they had a boy section too, right? So they had the boy, and then he discovered that the American Girl doll boy sizes would fit the Build-A-Bear outfits. So American Girl, and I told them this, they thought I was crazy at the time, the employees, but the Build-A-Bear Spider-Man and karate outfits and all that stuff would fit the American Girl doll. And I said, you need to do a licensing deal with Marvel and with, with DC and all those guys, because, you'll sell 10 times more of the boys things. And at the time, the boys section was just an afterthought. The other example, which was down in Disney, Orlando, and in LA, I don't know if it's still there, but I remember when I took my my kids down there, and it was out in downtown Disney, and I don't know, they were leasing space, but it was a Ride Maker Z. And what Ride Maker Z is it's a little remote control car, right? But I was so fascinated after I dropped $250. During the experience, I'm looking out the window, and there's the Disney store diagonally across the street. And in the Disney window, here's a Lightning McQueen remote control car. And it was, I believe, $45. And so I went to Walmart site on my phone while we were there, and the Lightning McQueen remote control car at Walmart was $27, right? So I can get it at Walmart for $27. I can get it across the street for whatever it was, $45 or something like that. And I dropped $150 for the Lightning McQueen car. But what it was is all the stuff like, it may have been the same people who did American Girl. It was all the same stuff. You pick out, and you could put side pipes on it. You could put a blower. You could put all this. But then they had the mechanic shop in the middle. And so they had staff dressed up like they were the pit crew, and they would put all the pieces on your car. So my daughter strangely ended up with Porsche from the blue Porsche from the movies with a blower on front, which I couldn't understand because the engine's in back. I'm a Porsche guy, but she ended up with a blower and side pipes and one thing or another. My son ended up with the Lightning McQueen deal with all these different add-ons. And by the time you're done, the staff in the pit crew uniforms just added $100 to the value of the whole thing, compared to the Disney price, which was not cheap, right? That's another one that I took our crew to when we were at Orlando Disney. I said, you got to watch this because you're all bitching about people want to nickel and dime you on fees. Wrong way to go.
But so here's the overriding theme of both of our stories is personalization.
You bet.
And personalizing the experience is, that's like the holy grail. It's like the key to the city. Because you're building your Lightning McQueen with whatever, spare parts that they have to make the thing. They did the same thing in Star Wars, build your own lightsaber, build your own droid. It's all hands-on stuff. But creating a personalized experience is what keeps people around and keeps them spending money.
Yeah.
So, how do we do that in our businesses? I mean, Disney, they will, because you got the wristband thing, you got the doohickey, and Magic Band, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
And if you go to the Haunted Mansion, on the way out, one of the tricks on the way out of the Haunted Mansion was they would actually take your name and put it on a tombstone as you're traveling out. And, here lies Fred, here lies Vance, all that. So every chance you get to personalize the interaction, keeping something as simple as a 3x5 card on each one of your, customers and saying, oh yeah, he's got a dog. Oh yeah. Got 2 kids. Oh yeah, he's a hunter. Oh yeah, he's, and you start building this list. And so when you see them, you can, you don't just, go to, it's one of those generic gifting sites and send everybody chocolate covered pretzels. If they're a handyman or a tool guy, you can go to man crates and get them a man crate, so it's whatever you can do. And then using their name, holy crap. I mean, to whom it may concern. Seriously, you couldn't even put my name on the darn thing? And I'm paying you how much?
Oh yeah. And especially unexpected gifting, right? So, all of a sudden they get something on their wedding anniversary, they get something on the birthday, they get flowers at the hospital for the new baby coming in, whatever's. That's one of the things I really work with on our clients is have enough knowledge system about all these things that, and it becomes systematized. I mean, Disney's running, 60,000 people in a day sometimes. It's all systematized, but all of a sudden you're delighting them in unexpected ways. And that's the mistake, is people tend to do gifting and other things in the expected times, right? I mean, I get the generic, really nice Christmas card at Christmas that's imprinted with your firm's name and so forth. Who cares, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Who cares? On the other hand, if I got some really cool thing on my son's birthday, and it's I'm so proud of the progress we've made on providing a solid, foundation for the next generations to come. That sticks out.
Yeah. And, I'll tell you, I mean, I do, in all of my businesses, I do the unexpected gifting. I'm not a big fan of food, only because it disappears. I mean, once they ate it, it's gone. There's no memory. However, you can, and you mentioned the thing with the logo on the cards. If you're going to give a gift, don't put your freaking logo on it. I mean, because nobody's going to use it. They're just going to hide it away in a drawer, and it becomes a tchotchke. I've got a kitchen and bath remodeler who's one of my clients, and he gives out customized, when he completes a kitchen, they get a customized and with the customer's monogram on these Cutco knives, a whole knife set, and this gorgeous bamboo, cutting board with their monogram on it. Now people will think, well, that's great. It's got how's that help me? Well, because every time they pull that thing out, they're going to think of the guy who gave it to them.
Oh yeah.
So you don't have to plaster your name on stuff. Now, food can have a place, I mean, like for my carpet cleaning clients, every month we take our top 5 people who spent the most with us, and we send them a cake in the mail.
Oh,
I mean, when was the last time your carpet cleaner or your water treatment
anybody
sent you a cake in the mail? Now we're like, I mean, in Maryland, we have a state cake called Smith Island Cake. So I got a deal with the Smith Island Cake Company. They send a cake.
All I knew about was crab cakes.
Yeah, well, no, they have Smith. You got to have dessert after the crab cake. So,
there you go.
But yeah, I mean, it's just stuff like that you're right. I got a financial advisor in San Diego every year sends live Christmas wreaths.
I love it.
To everybody to hang on their door.
Yeah.
It costs them $40, $50. Sends out 40 or 50 of them.
Well, and
a lot more impressive than a card that's just going to go in the recycle bin.
Well, and then they have the Christmas party, and everybody comments on how beautiful the wreath is, and you end up that's a from a standpoint of referrals. You only get referrals from people who are delighted, right? You don't get the 2/3 that aren't leaving but aren't particularly impressed with you. It's the top 10% who are thrilled. One of the things, you and I have talked about this before, is I always tell the advisors is one of the things you need to do is you need to have events that they can bring their friends to, and you also need to have pass along tools. You mentioned the book, but that's we've both done a lot of stuff with helping people market through creating their own book, through having things like that as pass along tools. Let's talk about that, ways to accelerate referrals.
Yeah, definitely. Because, well, nobody raves about average.
No.
I mean, you don't go home and at the kitchen table and say, oh my God, you'll never guess what happened at the oil change today.
Yeah.
That conversation just doesn't happen. However, if you just had your carpets cleaned by one of my companies, you would have gotten a gift, oh my God, the carpet cleaner gave me a gift when he walked in the front door. And so your business has to be tellable. And that's what creating these little wow. And we've talked about stuff that, cost money. Southwest is known for being able to not spend a penny and have delighted customers. I mean, when was the last time you got off an airplane and you were like smiling and giggling?
Yeah.
Never. But if you get off Southwest flights, you're like, I mean, the flight attendant wrapped the entire putting the seat belt together and the mask coming down. I mean, just Google it. And I mean, there's YouTube vid. I mean, it's just a riot, but it's all free and there's millions of views. It's all free marketing for Southwest. I mean, regardless of their issues earlier this year,
Sure.
they're still the same company.
Yeah.
So, creating experiences actually don't have to cost money. But at the end of the day, you do want your customer or your client to leave the experience with you saying, oh my God, you'll never guess what happened.
Oh yeah. I remember
all of their friends.
I had 2 or 3 legs of the same trip. This is probably pre-COVID, but I was on Southwest for a couple of them, and then I was on Delta first class. The other one was on United first class, and I much preferred to fly Southwest. And it's strange, the first class is supposed to be like a big deal, but the staff was kind of surly, and although they were giving me free beer, and I don't particularly drink, so that does not much of a benefit. There just wasn't any experience to it whatsoever. In fact, there were a number of people who were kind of disgruntled about one thing or another. So you're absolutely right. Creating, God, what's his name? Kelleher, right? He wrote a great book on the philosophy and the mindset of that. I was trying to remember back to when we started here. The Walt Disney quote I loved is, "Do what you do so well that they want to see it again and bring their friends."
That's Disney's law of unlimited abundance.
Oh yeah.
If you break that down, and actually I've got a whole 30-minute exercise on breaking that quote down. It's, do what you do. Okay. Not what your competitors do, not what everybody else does. Do what you do. And then, the keywords there, so well.
Yeah.
That means not average, not adequate. I mean, satisfied customers defect all the time. You have the stats right there, 2/3. And like I said, nobody raves about average. So, I mean, if you want to generate referrals without a formal referral system in place, which we could talk about that too.
Oh yeah.
But, the only way to do that is to get people talking about you. The only way to get people talking about you is, without doing a Ponzi scheme, is either like ridiculously great results or how you treat them.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Mostly it comes down to how you treat them in this segment. That's for sure. The, you mentioned that. I was thinking back to when we took a pretty large crew through the Disney University deal. And you and I have both done jillions of business meetings, seminars and one thing or another. And I'm always, no matter how good the information is, I'm always kind of in a hurry to get out of the room by the time it's done. And you do Disney University, and all of a sudden Mickey comes to present you the diploma at the end of the day. And there's all these different little touches and pieces. And I used to have this all documented from when we did there, but all the different things that they did, and again, there may have been 50 or 100 people in the room, but everybody had personalized stuff for them.
Yep.
They knew the names long before you got there. They were, and content wise, I'm sure it was 99% the same content, but they were personalizing it for the industry. Right. Even though there were multiple people in the industry. So, there's the segment about, now you guys that are in, hospitality, here's what's important for you. And you guys who are in financial services, here's a takeaway that everything was personalized about it. And again, that's such an unusual situation. Let's talk about referral systems. That first thing I ask an advisor I'm working with is, where do most of your new clients come from? They all say referrals. And then the next question is, well, what referral systems are you using? And usually that draws a blank stare, right? And I'll say, well, how do you get referrals? Well, most of them is, well, I just ask them who they know. Okay, well.
That's not a system.
That's not a system. It's a part of a system, but it's not a system. Let's talk about, if you're going to build a referral system as a financial advisor who presumably gives delightful service. Well, I think most advisors are just in the contest to see how they can be no worse than anybody else.
Right.
It's a big contest to look alike. They're all dressed alike. All the jargon's the same. But assuming you figured out how to delight people, what would be some place you'd start on referral systems?
Well, it is, I don't use the word culture a lot just because sometimes it's an overused word.
Sure.
But in this case, a culture of referrals is
It's Lee Milt here, and I'm delighted to interrupt you today and let you know that I've been working with Stephen Oliver for 10 or 15 years now. He's a great guy. I love all the research that he does. And I just wanted to let you know that if you're enjoying the content on this podcast, then you really want to make time to visit advisorwealthmastery.com. And why should you do that? Well, because you're going to receive 2 of his great books and actually one of mine called Success is an Inside Job. You'll also get a lot of absolutely free material on growing your practice through effective marketing. So again, take the time to go to advisorwealthmastery.com.
mandatory.
Yeah.
The message that needs to go out is you will refer in order to do business with me. I'm not taking you on as a client unless you refer. Now, of course, it's all said more eloquently than that,
Sure,
but
sure.
that's the message that goes out.
Right.
For my carpet business, there are 7 referral mentions between the first phone call and the time the technician leaves the home after cleaning. 7. Whether it be a business card, a certificate, a question on the phone, a mention in the newsletter. I mean, we just talk about referrals all the time. We put their name and again, personalized. Our newsletter got a whole section on, welcoming new clients that have been referred to us, and then highlighting the people that did
Who referred them, yeah.
So, there's that part. And it's a system because it's continuously done. And I know every single person is getting all of the touches. But in order to generate a referral system I'm a big proponent of, either some people call them center of influence or mavens.
Right.
It's great to have the other referrals, but they're like onesie twosie referrals.
Sure.
I want somebody who can just send me people all year long.
You bet.
Okay, yeah, okay. Over there's Uncle Susie. Fine, great, love Aunt Susie. We'll take it. But I'd also like to know this person because they're going to send 1 referral a month to me. Ooh,
yeah.
All right. Well, how do we do that? And it's cultivating people that that are in your circle, in your sphere, and but you have to, it's like anything else, it's a relationship that you have to work continuously, and you can't just go say, hey, I'll refer business to you, you refer business to me. Oh, we got a system.
Yeah, no.
I mean, for one of my my mold company, we have an 8-week onboarding process for a new maven. So we identify a real estate office that we want because mold is the 4-letter word of real estate.
Sure.
We create a relationship with that office, and it takes us 8 weeks at least to onboard them. And it's a live person visit, not email, not Zoom. I have a live person walk into the office and introduce themselves. And then, and of course, we want to start the process of reciprocity. So we start off with offering a gift. And we say, hey, I've got this nice candy bowl here. Would you mind if I set this candy bowl up in your lobby? I'll come by every week to refill it. And we're just going to tuck a couple of our brochures in the back of it here. 99% of people say yes. 0.5% say skip the candy, put apples in there, and the other 0.5% throw us out. Okay, so what? So now that's the beginning. Our excuse to go back into the office now is to refill the candy bowl. But as we do that, each time we go out there, we're bringing something else. We bring them a supply of office supplies, Post-it notes, pens, whatever. We bring some more information. The end goal at the end of 8 weeks is for my manager to have a meeting with the broker to see how we can, if we can do a presentation, do a lunch and learn, etc. Then after the 8 weeks, every 10 to 14 days, that marketing person still visits that office to refill the candy, refill the brochures, because it's not your customer's job to remember you. It's
You
your
bet.
job to remind them that you exist.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, you can't replace that human. I mean, look, COVID's over, move on, folks, go back to the live office because they're there and nobody else is in there. I mean,
Mhm.
these people, I mean, this referral system I just gave you, I mean, I charged $2,000 to teach people this thing. I just gave it to you for free. So we'll see if
Yeah.
anybody uses it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you cannot underestimate the number of touches that anybody needs in order to, and you said, I forget how you phrased it, but if you're meeting with a client twice a year or once a year to do a review, and they come across a perfect opportunity that you would be the perfect person to solve the problem in between, they're going to have a hard time remembering who the hell you are if they remember that they use somebody, right?
Yep.
And that's where you need those daily touches, you need the weekly touches. And again, I mean, most advisors, even if they're doing that, they're like dripping on them by email. It's like, well, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's better than not doing anything, but how often are you mailing to them? How often are you meeting with them in person? How often are you inviting them to a small group session? How often are you inviting them to a client appreciation? And as you said, with a CPA referral or a
Right.
estate planning of referral, if you aren't cultivating that relationship constantly and really cultivating, same thing. If they don't have a stack of your books to pass along, if you're not taking them out to lunch, you're not meeting them regularly. And I talked to a lot of advisors where they got pitched, well, circle of influence marketing, you got to go find a couple of good CPAs. And then they say, oh, it doesn't work. Well, it only works if you work it, right?
That's why it's called work.
Yeah, yeah. It only works if you work it, but if you don't work it, if you just sit there and hope for the best. And and we talked about gifting. I've always found in all my businesses, I can much more likely get, and this is not somebody who's obviously a CPA or something, but if I have Mrs. Jones sends me a referral, I'm more likely to get 20 more from her. And so once I show appreciation and show personal appreciation, so of all your clients, if you have 50 clients, you probably have 5 that are going to give you almost all the referrals. It's going to be, not even 90-10. It's going to be, 95-5. And I've always found that far from trying to go up front and bribe people on the way in, it's much better to overwhelm them with appreciation after the fact. And so, if I have Mrs. Jones send me, her aunt or her uncle or whatever it might be, I'm going to figure out what her favorite spa is and send her a gift card for that. Figure out what her favorite restaurant is and send her a gift card for that. A story I have many years ago now, hell, this was in the 80s. I was spending a fortune in TV advertising. And one day I show up and this is how bad of a fit it was. I show up in my office one day and there's a Denver Broncos golf bag. Leather golf bag. Now, I don't play golf. I don't watch football. I'm not particularly a football fan, or Broncos are a home team. I guess I'm more so for them than anybody else. But I was more likely to watch the Super Bowl commercials on YouTube than to actually see them live during the game. That's how bad I am. And so I showed up in my office, and here's this Denver Broncos leather golf bag. Probably cost them $1,000. I don't know. It was nice. And the effect on me was, it was a wonderful story about how bad the rep had ever bothered to learn anything about, the clientele. But other than that, it's like, well, what the hell, am I going to do with this freaking golf bag? It was more of a pain in the ass to get rid of it than it was.
It's like sending candy to a diabetic.
Oh yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. You mentioned Dan Kitty. Make sure we don't send Dan any chocolates anytime soon.
Exactly.
Well, we'll take that off the list now that you mention it. But it's one of those things that the more personal it is, coming back full circle, the more you show appreciation once they get moving, and the more that you're constantly interacting with them in a positive way, whether it be educational or just remembering special events and dates and so forth. That's the way not only do you get them delighted, but I've sent referrals to people that I know were worth 100 grand to them and never even heard that the person showed up, right? Never got a call, a text, an email of, oh, thank you so much.
Yep.
I mean,
I know. If I don't, I mean, I don't refer. I mean, the reasons people refer are, are usually not monetary. I mean, people refer to make themselves feel good, to make them feel important, I got a guy, let me introduce you to my guy.
Yeah.
They don't, so dangling a $10 Starbucks gift card in front of them beforehand, or offering, hey, we'll give you a, $25 Amazon gift card for everybody who refer to us.
Yeah.
Doesn't work, because that's not the motivation to refer. And if you're not referable, it doesn't matter how much you're going to dangle in front of them, it ain't going to work anyway.
And I think if anything, it backfires, because the biggest fear of referring my friend to anywhere, doesn't matter whether it's telling them go see a movie or going to a restaurant or going to a financial advisor, is the fear that they're going to have the experience screwed up. Right. And now I raved about this restaurant. They're mad at me for sending them there. I sent them to this advisor and he didn't remember the name and didn't ever call them back. Right. And so the biggest fear is that I'm going to screw up the relationship with my friend by giving them bad advice. Right. And so the bribe, I think, actually works against you. It's the last thing they're going to do is to, in fact, that kind of sits in their back of their mind as a reason not to. Now, you certainly can build relationship with other professionals, but even them, I have that experience. You have that experience in your business with, I'll work with clients and, we don't build the website for them. We can show them how everything's supposed to work. But if I send them to somebody who screws up the relationship, who screws it up, it comes back on me. I've got a mutual friend. I just sent him to do some direct mail multi-step campaigns, and he ghosted everybody. It's like, well, okay. Oops. How many different ways did that screw up my relationship with this person? Doesn't matter what he was going to be willing to pay me. The client relationship is paramount.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's you can't, I think we killed it. I mean, there's nothing worse than, referring somebody to somebody and they completely drop the ball. I've actually switched. I had a great printer, print on demand, did variable data printing. I mean, just fantastic. Price was great. And I started referring people to him and, never heard back. And I'm like, all right, well, so he doesn't have to thank me, but I like his service. He does a good job. And he's actually a direct response guy. He lives in our world. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't practice what he preaches. And finally, one guy called me back and said, I haven't heard from John yet. What's the deal? I'm like, I don't know. Sorry about that. Here's my backup printer. Try him. Yeah. And the backup printer was like, boom, he was in there. And so I stopped referring one guy and now I just refer the other guy.
My goodness, Vance, we're coming up on an hour. We're gonna hit a hard break here and get kicked off for our system. Hey, you mentioned your book. Do you have your book handy there that you can show everybody and tell them a little bit about it?
Yeah. So we've got Systematic Magic. Oops, I've got the page for Systematic Magic. 7 magic keys to Disneyfy your business. And it's really a little bit about everything we just talked about. Yeah. And it is, as I mentioned in the book delivery, it is a workbook style. So at the end of each of the magic keys, there's questions that, you should think about and ask yourself, answer them. And then once you come up with something, my key thing is implementation. Yeah. And without implementation, nothing's going to happen. So there's actually little action plans in there. And you can actually, my website's cheaper than Amazon. You can go give Amazon money if you want to, but the book's free on my site, and just pay shipping and handling, and we'll ship it out to you.
Well, what's the website?
Oh yeah, that helps, doesn't it?
Yes.
Deliverservicenow.com.
Deliverservicenow.com. Fantastic. Yep. And I'll post that in the show notes, and so everybody has access to that as well. Vance, anything we haven't touched on before we call it a day?
Oh yeah, 1,000,000,000 things, but
Well, yeah,
I think
always.
we gave everybody a lot to chew on, and
Yeah.
boy, if you just take the nuggets out of this interview and go and implement one or two of them, you're gonna see immediate results.
Did I send you my new book? The
Oh, you haven't yet.
Well, there you go. There you go. I'll make sure and send that one out to you really quickly, and I'll have to get your feedback on that. I have yours there. I've used it for clients, but multiple copies many times. It's great stuff.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Next time I'll actually call you for a bulk discount.
There you go.
I just did the 50 on Amazon or whatever it was.
Oh God, don't do that. Call me, please.
Well, thank you very much. It's been
All right,
wonderful.
Stephen. It was great. I appreciate your time.
I appreciate yours.